Hey, welcome. This is episode 6 of Promises to Keep with David and Melissa Muller. I'm so excited to have you guys on board tonight. We are going to have a great 30 minutes with you. As many of you already know, we launch a TV show every Sunday night, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And tonight's is going to be featured around protecting your assets and building sustainable long-term wealth. So we're really excited to be able to share this part of a piece of our platform. As many of you already know, part of our wealth acceleration system is the debt elimination portion, which basically takes your debt and speeds that process of buying it down in record-keeping time. And then alongside of that, we teach you how to protect your assets and build wealth at the same time. So we're really excited about tonight's basically overview of this part of our program, and we're looking forward to educating you on this piece that really helped David and I through 2008 when the rest of everyone else was crashing and losing everything. We lost nothing, and so we're really excited about sharing that part of our story with you. And like Henry David Thoreau says, wealth is the ability to fully experience life, and that is what our hopes and our goals are for you, is for you guys to experience the best life that you want to have by setting up, basically being a part of our program every Sunday night. What you'll experience is what we're hoping is to help you be even more healthy, wealthy, and wise. Over to you, David.
Thanks, Alyssa. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about what we call the Swiss Army knife of financial strategies. And you'll see in a minute why we call it that. But this is the tool that we used in 2008 to avoid the market losses that everyone else was getting hit with when the market dropped. And so going forward in the future, we want to make sure that we let as many people know about some of the strategies that we've used also. And there's a lot of different strategies out there, and everybody's situation is unique and different, which is why we have a very personalized wealth acceleration formula with each and every member that we work with. So let's dive right into this. The Swiss Army knife of financial strategies. In today's economy, you want protection from the market volatility, like we talked about in 2008. But when you choose a conservative product that protects your money, you could also lose out on the potential growth from market upswings. So what if you could have the protection you need without giving up the potential for the growth of your money? This is all in this book by national best-selling author Patrick Kelly. So the Swiss Army knife of financial products is a universal life insurance, which is basically investment-grade life insurance. And the first blade on the Swiss Army knife that we're going to talk about is to be able to leave a tax-free inheritance to your heirs, which is basically the life insurance aspect of things. The three-legged stool of retirement that we used to be able to count on has been crumbling over the last quite a few years now. When we used to be able to count on, company pensions that for the most part are pretty much disappeared at this point. Social Security, which in my opinion is the biggest Ponzi scheme ever, and that we can't really count on. And then personal savings. And it used to be that this three-legged stool of retirement was very adequate for retirement. But now it's kind of, as the company pensions are disappeared and Social Security, probably not going to be able to count too much on that. But the personal savings is pretty much what, there's the shift to the personal responsibility to make sure that you take care of yourself. Because you're not going to be able to count on other people like your employer or the government to take care of you. It's just not going to happen. So let's move on. The other thing about the next blade on this Swiss Army knife of financial strategies is zero market risk. So this is a picture of the S&P 500 index for the last 16 years, from 2000 to 2016. And as you can see, it took a couple of pretty major hits in 2000, a few years there, and then also in 2008. This is the one that we lived through and we experienced ourselves. And you can see the annual rate of return for 16 years is not quite 4% on average, if you average it out. And the total return is 33, almost 34%. But we also have inflation. As you know, as time goes on, inflation happens, and we have, things cost more. And so the adjusted annual interest rate over the last 16 years in the S&P 500 is an effective interest rate of a 1.62 return on your investment over time. So that's just to kind of put things a little in perspective. I want to come back to that in a minute. So here's an example. If you had $10,000 and you lost 50%, you have $5,000 left. And so what you're going to want to do is to gain that back. If you lost 50%. So if you gained 50% back, you're only gaining 50% of what you have left, which means you only have $7,500 if you gain 50% back. And so you'd actually have to have a gain of 100% in order to get back to where you were before you lost the 50%. And so imagine, if we go back to this, imagine a lot of people, you can see, I don't know if you can see my cursor, but you can see after the drop in 2008, and then it gradually came back up, and you can see it's recovered pretty nicely. And that's great. But what's happened is, what if you didn't have to take these losses at all? Where would you be at this point? Let me show you what I mean. If you get to take advantage of the ups and avoid the losses, there's a cap and a floor that we'll come back to in a second. But here's an example. This is totally hypothetical. But if the market went up 10% at 1 year and then down 10% the next year, up 10%, down 10% for 10 years, this is the numbers of what it would look like. And as you can see, you're going to gradually, very gradually lose over time because of what we just talked about. Because if you lose 50%, and then you gain 50% back, you're only going to be at 75%. And so this is an example of what's going to happen. Gradually over time, up 10, down 10, up 10, down 10, you're going to gradually lose money. Over 10 years, you can see you're at 951 instead of your original $1,000. Now, what if you did not have to take advantage of the losses? Then it would look something more like this. When the market goes up, you take advantage of the market. But when the market goes down, you just flatline it. And you do that over the same 10 years with the floor. This is what it would look like. Which would you rather have?
And for us, what I'm really excited about is that in 2006, when we started this part of our journey, of course, the market crashed in 2008. No one foresaw that happening. I mean, no one can predict the future.
Nobody has a crystal ball.
No one does. But I'll tell you what, we were so grateful that in 2008, we had only been doing this program for 2 years. And this literally is almost verbatim of what our graph looks like with our investment. So it's awesome to be able to give that example to you guys. And I'm not saying that the market is going to crash, but if you look at that last graph, there's any resemblance of a pattern, I mean, it could happen again. And I know for us, I feel very secure as our investment grows bigger and bigger, that if that were to happen again, we don't lose sleep over it.
Yeah, because it's not a big deal anymore. I don't have to worry about the market loss. I don't have to worry about, running out of money. But let's move on. So here's kind of a tic-tac-toe financial product. On one side, you got fixed products that has all that your principal is safe, so you're guaranteed not to lose money, or you're not going to lose money. But the problem with that is that the potential is very low, 1 to 3% or less on something. Here's an example: a CD. A CD is pretty safe. You're guaranteed you're going to get your money, but you're only going to get very little percent. I think it's much lower than that right now for a CD. But on the other side of that, with investment products that are in the market, you got all the upside potential, but you have the risk of principal, because the potential you could lose that, like we've seen on the last few graphs. And what we do, this strategy that we're using is with the index products, is basically the best of both worlds. You get all of the upside potential, plus you have the safety of principal. So that's what we're excited about. And then of course you have the floor and the ceiling. So in this case, If you have a ceiling of 15% and the market goes up 18% that year, everybody's pretty excited because everybody went up 18%. You only get 15% of that. But the downside is when the market drops 40%, like it did in 2008, you don't take advantage, you don't have to take any of that loss. And so when's the best time to earn 0% on your investment? When everyone else is losing 40%. Trust me, that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. And this is the biggest reason why I love this strategy so much. So let's move on to another blade, is the tax-free retirement income. Now this is great. Let's, if you were a farmer, would you rather pay tax on the seeds or would you rather pay tax on your harvest? Here's the way I look at it is, if you pay tax on your seeds, you're going to pay much less tax, and your harvest is still going to be a pretty large multiple of your seeds. As you know, there's a lot more seeds when you plant it and grows on an ear of corn that grows from one kernel. You have hundreds and hundreds of kernels on that plant. But if you wait until the harvest, then obviously you're going to be paying the tax man a lot bigger chunk of the change. And here's the other thing. Over time, do you think that taxes are going to go up? Do you think they're going to go down? Or do you think they're just going to stay even? Alyssa, what do you think?
So I think that they may go down in the next couple of years
because of Trump.
because of Trump. But in the long term, by the time all of us are ready to, to really retire and use our nest egg, I definitely think they will be up.
Right. And so basically this is, we fund these investment strategies with after-tax contributions so that you don't have to pay tax for them on the back end. Because basically basically when you pay with after-tax dollars is a qualified plan. So what does a qualified plan do? Obviously, it defers the tax. But really, this is only half the answer, because not only does it defer the tax, but it also defers the tax calculation. Again, it comes back to the question, do you think taxes are going to go up? I do, over time. So here's the another blade for is long-term care expenses. Let's talk a little bit about that, okay? What's the likelihood of you needing long-term care? It's becoming more and more popular with long-term care because 7 in 10 Americans over 65 are going to need long-term care. But in our reality, only about 22% of them have really actually planned for long-term care in retirement. So what does that mean? What do you think that does to the economy? Here's kind of a breakdown of what it looks like. This is how long-term care is really paid for, because obviously as you age, you're going to need long-term care unless you die in an accident. You're going to probably, unless you die in an accident and instantly, you're not going to need long-term care then. But if you get sick and die, there's a period between the time you start to get sick and begin to not be able to take care of yourself and the time that you actually die, that you're going to need care. And so how's that going to get paid for? There a lot of people have savings or assets, your nest egg, and so there's only about 29% of the people that actually have enough savings and assets to pay for long-term care. You can do Medicare. 22% of it's paid with Medicare, but that's temporary. Most of it, as you can see by this graph, is paid by Medicaid. There's only about 6%, very small number of people that actually have private long-term care insurance. And the cool thing about this strategy is that you can incorporate your private long-term care into this strategy. It's like life insurance that you don't have to die to use.
And the part that I loved about this is, when we got started with this, it was in 2006. So it's been 10 years ago. We were 10 years younger, and we weren't thinking about, oh my gosh, we potentially could be, in long-term care. But I have examples of my grandparents who were very young, and both of them were in a position where they were put into long-term care because of Alzheimer's and a dementia situation. And what they had to do is they had to depend on their children all coming together and paying for that. And that was such obviously you'll do whatever you can for your parents, but the burden was put on them. And what I think for David and I, we feel very great about this is that we got insured at a young age where we were qualified, which is, I think, a really important also that everybody needs to understand, that the sooner you get this started, the better, because you're going to qualify because of your health. It's attached to your health as well. So we're qualified now, and now we don't have to depend on that. And we both only have a small amount of children. I've got one and he's got one. So it's not likely that they'll be able to afford to take care of us. So this makes me feel a lot better also about the possibility or the potential, like David said, it is more than likely that we'll need to have long-term care.
Yeah, plus I wouldn't want to put that on my kids anyway.
Right.
But so as you can see, 43, almost half of people in retirement that need long-term care, it's paid for by Medicaid. But here's the thing about Medicaid. First of all, you have to live below, you have to have income below the federal poverty level. You have to have assets less than $2,000. But here's the kicker, is they do a 5-year look back. So if you liquidated your assets, they're going to look at that, and you have to expend all of your assets before you get Medicaid, which means you basically have to become destitute before you are going to be able to tap into the Medicaid system. But let's, I'm not going to harp on that anymore. Let's move on.
But that's important. I think a lot of people don't think about that.
Yeah. Okay, so we have, there's 3 crusades that are incorporated into this strategy. One is the income in retirement. Obviously, we talked about that. Long-term care is the other one, and then the death benefit, which is what you leave to your heirs. And so, if you're watching this or live, or if you're watching this on a recording, just kind of think to yourself, how would you prioritize these 3 things for you?
I know for David and I, at least for me speaking, like I said, 10, 11 years ago when we started, I was looking at this as an income opportunity because I had no retirement in place. And so this was my way of catching up. I had nothing saved up. But as I've gotten older, I'll tell you what, there's been a couple of times that, if David or I were to pass away, I was very grateful that we had this as a backup. And then we already talked about long-term care. As we get older, it is inevitable that we will need that. So I think it happens in phases.
Yeah, I would prioritize him exactly how that is right now. But as I continue to age, as my body continues to wear out, not that it's wearing out, but I'm just saying, eventually it's going to. That's the way we work. That A and B is probably going to switch places. But let's move on. So here's an example of the power of a tax-free income. Think about this. If you want to live in retirement with a $30,000 a year income, how much are you going to have to withdraw to equal the same amount, because you're going to have to pay after you pay taxes on it? So if you pay 33% tax, because that's probably what, for calculation purposes, experts say that you should be able to draw about 5% of your nest egg out each year in an annual income in order to keep your money from running out. So more and more people are more afraid of outliving their money than they are of dying at this point.
Definitely.
And this is why, because people are living longer, and that 3-legged stool of retirement is not really panning out the way it used to. So here's what it would look like. If you would have to pull out $45,000 a year to have $30,000 after taxes. And so that means that if you're going to pull out 5%, you're going to have $900,000 accumulated in your nest egg at retirement in order to pull a $30,000 per year annual retirement. So that just kind of put things into perspective. But let's be honest, who wants to try to live on $30,000 a year?
Yeah.
How about this one? For this one, $153,000 a year. Same scenario. You would have to pull out $225,000 per year in order to live on $153,000 per year. If you had to pay taxes on it, which means you're going to have $4.5 million in your nest egg.
Wow.
In order to do that. And so maybe somewhere in between those two numbers is where you want to be. I mean, that's neither here nor there, but you can see the math of the beauty and and why we think a tax-free retirement is so valuable. So let me ask you a question. What do you think would be more probable? What do you think would be more feasible for you to actually do? Would it be easier for you to save $300 to $1,200 a month and put into an investment strategy like this? Or do you think it would make more sense for you to be able to raise or save in your nest egg $1 million to 900 to 4.5 million in a taxable account?
So for David and I, it was a no-brainer. It was definitely A.
Right. And so that's just, I just want to put things into perspective. So this is kind of the entire Swiss Army knife strategy in a nutshell. I'm going to let Alyssa just kind of talk a little bit about close out, because we're kind of running short on time. So what I want to do is just turn the time over to Alyssa to talk a little bit more about kind of where we're at with this.
Yeah, so I'm really excited to have this be this week's episode and to share our personal, story with you on this and the example of how it really helped us. Now, we started out with a small amount for each of us at that time, and then we've gradually built it up through time. So that's the other thing that's very excellent about this, is that it's very fluid to where you're at right now. So at this moment, I would say if you're on the fence, like, where should I go? What's the step? Well, the step is to message us, and we'll get you in front of our expert that actually helped us get started so that you can see what these numbers look for you. But 100%, had I known about this when I was in my 20s, it would have been a game changer, and I would have had to have, I could have started at a much lower amount than I had to 10 years ago. And that is the part that I think is the most, some of you on the line might be like, well, I don't know that I can squeeze, blood from a turnip. But what I'm sharing with you is any amount that you can get started with is where you should start. And it's a forced savings. And that's the thing that I think I would like to share with all of you guys, is that we don't think in terms, most of us, in the long run. We're like, well, I can't worry about that right now. I have to worry right now about getting food on the table and gas in the car and, all the things that that most of us are stressed about right now. But I'm telling you, we can help you figure out how to get just a tiny bit to get this started. And to start earlier is the other thing that I hope that you heard on the stress, that I stressed earlier, is the sooner that you start, the better, because you can lock in. It's based on health. Part of it is based on health. And so it's very important that you understand that when you reach a certain age, your health is going to possibly keep you from being a part of this vehicle that is one of the most fantastic ways that David and I have been able to diversify our nest egg, if you will. And I'm so grateful that our expert followed up with us and followed up and followed up, and finally we got in front of him. And so that's what I want to stress to you guys, is just take a look. There's no pressure. As you know, the Mullers are not about closing. We're all about serving and what makes sense to you. We hope that, it will make sense to you and it will help you in the long run. But ultimately, we know we said yes to this and it saved us, and it is in our DNA to share it with others. So at this point, we always like to end the show with a way to give back to the community and to give gifts out. So at this point of this episode, we've had 6 episodes now at the conclusion of this one. What I would love is for anybody that's listening within this week, so Sunday to Sunday, or anybody that's on now listening live, if you tag us, both David and I, and then put what you've loved the most out of one or all or any of the episodes that we've had, then you will be sent a gift from us. And so that's really the challenge that we have for you, and the gift that we would like to leave at this end of the episode is to tag both of us and just let us know if there's anything that you feel like you've learned or you've grown from being a part of our episodes.
So just to clarify, they're going to make a social media post about a takeaway that they've gotten from one of the episodes of Promises to Keep.
Yes.
And they're going to tag us in it.
Yes.
And they're also going to tag 3 of their friends.
3 of their friends.
That's crucial.
Yes. So tag us, tag 3 friends. Let us know what you've learned or what you like best about our episodes, and then we will message you and send you a gift.
Also, as always, if you need more information, get with the person that sent you this, or just contact us directly. We're easy to find on Facebook and Twitter, and you can also email us at davidalyssamuller@gmail.com. And I'm looking forward to chatting with you and maybe looking at some different strategies for you. Keep in mind, this is the strategy that we've used. But the wealth acceleration formula has a lot of different strategies, and everybody's situation is unique and different. And I am pretty confident in the fact that whatever your situation is now, we could probably help improve that.
Definitely.
So with that, this is David and Alyssa Muller. We're signing off. Thanks for watching. Talk to you soon.
Bye, guys.